Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here. It's time for the youorns 10-minute take on Watford 2, Middlesbrough 1. On Vic 100 night, excitement in the air at the Vic before the game with the pyrotechnics and honouring some of those who have come before that have made this club the great family club that it is. And then the pitch, the celebrations died down, and then it was time to get to work for Watford, and they started out pretty difficultly because the difficulties, I should say, came with the first 20 minutes. It seems as if there was a slight hangover from the pageantry of the evening at the Vic. Of course, on this, the 100th anniversary of Watford's first game at Vicarage Road, played all the way back on Wednesday, August the 30th, 1922, against Millwall. Well, that game was a game that was then, and this game 100 years to the very day is the game of today. And Watford did start out very slowly, started out sluggishly, lethargic. They looked as if they were playing the occasion rather than the game itself. But that changed even after that fourth-minute goal that came in was indicative of the kind of intransigence and the kind of deer in headlights look that Watford had for those first 20 minutes or so. And the goal came in for Newcastle, well, for their neighbors, Middlesbrough, on Teesside at least, as the visitors got themselves into an early lead, and they were trying to do well to improve that lead. Daniel Backman made a mistake misjudging the cross, and in came Rodrigo Muniz in the fourth minute to make it 1-0 to the visitors. Middlesbrough, who looking at their position at the table, you wondered how on earth they got down there. Well, they certainly looked like a completely different outfit with that goal scored, and they continued to ask questions of Watford, whose defense was shaky for the first part of this game. And then the light switch was turned on, and Watford looked energized, and it was improvisation and skill from João Pedro that got them back into this game. His pass and his hard work, the build-up of that goal resulted in his assist to Ismail Assar, who was in the box, turned, took his touch, and then hit it low into the bottom left-hand corner of the net, past the despairing dive of the Middlesbrough keeper, and that put Watford back on the map. They equalized at one apiece, and then Watford energized themselves into gear and continued to ask questions of Middlesbrough, whose defense was one of the leakiest in the championship so far this season. But it was some of the finishing that did not pan out. The end product for the industrious Esprit did not quite work out. And then they went into the break at 1-1. In the second half, the game kind of seesawed and meandered. Then it was when the game looked inexorably headed toward a stalemate. It was Vakun Bayo who came on us in the 80th minute or so, and Rob Edwards put him on the pitch, and he did the rest. Made no mistake, on the biggest occasion of all this season thus far, it was that man Vakun Bayo who came good with the goal in the 93rd minute in front of the rookery. That's the way to announce yourself to the Watford faithful, and especially on a night like this, on Vic 100 night. That is a page and a chapter that has now been written by Vakun Bayo with that great finishing, and that was the difference tonight. Finishing for Watford when it really counted was the thing that came good. I'd been talking for a number of games about the fact that the finishing needed to improve. And while there are other areas on the pitch that need to improve, including in tonight's game, you can't really nitpick too much, because when it really counted, these lads got the job done. And the finishing was the thing that did not betray them. And you saw in the Saar goal how calm and composed he was. He turned, took a touch, and then hit the ball low right past the goalkeeper. That's not easy to do. We all know that in football, the hardest thing to do is score in the goal. That is a very difficult thing to do, put the ball in the back of the net. But Saar did it tonight in a cool and composed finish, rather the more accustomed and orthodox way that we're used to seeing stars. I'm tripping over my words here, but it's the more orthodox way that Ismail Assar scores goals, rather than from the halfway line or in his own half, as he did against West Brom. Saar scoring his second goal of the season, and Vakun Bayo in the 93rd minute, when all seemed headed to a draw, which I think would have probably suited Middlesbrough more than it would have suited Watford. It all came through for Vakun Bayo, who I think now is going to start to come good with a number of goals. I had said that his work rate was very good this season, even in games where he had misfired, even in those games where you thought that he should have finished some sitters. And I've told you time and time again that he had sitters that he missed. But I also told you that his work rate was very good. And you know that. You see this from the games, and you're at the Vic watching these games, and you see the work effort, the work rate, the effort that he puts in. He works very hard, does Bayo, for the team. And he got rewarded tonight finally. And he also finished well under pressure. And that is the thing you do when you're a striker. You put the ball in the back of the net. He did that 11 times in 16 games for his predecessor club. And now he gets off the mark with Watford here, and a whole weight is lifted off his shoulders. And Bayo came up trumps tonight with a really good performance when it really counted to sink the Middlesbrough side, who has, as I said, been the leakiest side, one of the leakiest sides in the championship thus far. A late goal for Watford on a night where history and tradition and moments and memories were celebrated and made once again by the Ivory Coast striker who made it a winning night for Watford. And look, tonight character came into play as well. This was a game I circled on the calendar before the season started as a really critical game because I wanted to know whether the Watford team would have the mentality and the character required on big occasions like this. We go back to January of this calendar year when we were still in the Premier League, and I was wondering about whether or not Watford would have the kind of character required in a game against Norwich on Graham Taylor night. That was a cold Friday night, and it was not a night where Watford's character showed, and we saw what happened in that game. Now we fast forward 7.5+ months, and we see actually 7 months or so, and we see that character showed tonight. The mentality was there. The lads were up for it, especially in the moments in the first half that really counted, the second half of that first half, and certainly in the late stages of the game. Daniel Batman, by the way, redeemed himself in the 62nd minute with an excellent point blank save from Middlesbrough, who I don't know how they didn't score. They had 2 or 3 opportunities that they really should have scored, but their finishing let them down tonight, and Watford's did not. Thank goodness for that. And new memories and new chapters and stories written tonight by Watford, and especially by Vicun Bayo. And let's not forget João Pedro. He was scintillating tonight. For me, the clear man of the match for Watford. This has been the YouOrns 10-minute take.